Ladies and gentlemen, this is actually fantastic news. And you don't think of the Bush administration, well, you don't think of former officials either siding with or defending William Barr, John Durham. You don't think that they would do that. You certainly know that Democrats won't in the former administration, President Obama's administration, but you don't think also that former President Bush's administration would. Bush was the worst president in U.S. history. I know some people say, no, he wasn't. I'm like, what? Not only a recession that could have led to a depression, ending his tenure, but two of the worst, most horrific, failed interventions since Vietnam, and President Obama then added on to that in Libya, and continued the same policies he said he would overturn from his predecessor. But Bush administration official John Yoo, Attorney General, now former Deputy Assistant Attorney General, key figures, a very influential figure in the Bush administration, so much so I can't even get into it because the algorithm won't let me. If you literally say certain words pertaining to Mr. Yoo and what he did, big problem. But John Yoo is defending President Trump. He's literally saying what I've been saying for 2+ years. You'll hear this on Fox, and this is regarding witness coming forth in the last seconds, which is delaying the IG report. So reluctant witness in FISA probe agrees to talk to DOJ Inspector General. So this is fantastic, but let's listen to John Yoo. He's going to sound like H.A. Goodman. He's going to sound like you. He's going to sound like me. He's going to sound like a Trump supporter, a Trump voter, not the establishment, Jeff Flake, Paul Ryan, golly gee, we just have to, respect John Brennan. He's going to sound like somebody, well, he's going to say everything that I've been saying, that everybody else has been saying, similar, John, Kimberly Strassel, Sarah Carter, Dan Bongino, John Solomon, Tom Fitton, Paul Sperry, Joe DeGeneva, Victoria Tenzing, Catherine Herridge. I mean, there have been a number of people who've been on the money. And now you have John Yoo. The significance, and I know that I'm harping on this, is that this is an establishment GOP figure. This is an establishment Republican name, a Republican figure. When the establishment Republican Party, through John Durham, through William Barr, and now John Yoo is adding his voice, when the establishment is saying that Trump was set up, that bodes very well for the next Inspector General report. I am kind of increasing I'm upping my hope or my expectations regarding the Inspector General report. But let's continue here. I know my long-winded nature needs to, well, here it is.
Attorney General John Yoo. Mr. Yoo, great to have you.
Thanks for having me.
You know Michael Horowitz, the Inspector General. What do you make of this delay?
First, I think Michael Horowitz is a professional prosecutor. He has served under administration of both parties. I expect he's taking his time because I think what he sees is what we see, that the Obama administration, the FBI, and the Justice Department misused FISA to try to surveil a major presidential campaign. The very purpose that FISA was passed was to prevent such a thing. The harder question, which is what Mr. Horowitz is probably working on, is whether this was an honest mistake, that people were duped by the Steele dossier and the terrible evidence, I think just fraudulent.
So it couldn't have been an honest mistake because they couldn't work. Okay. When Democrats were caught with their pants down, they said, gosh, we were duped. But you can't deliberately engage in treachery, deliberately allow a Steele dossier purchased by Clinton that was complete and utter nonsense, which is illegal, deceive FISA judges, utilize a third-party tech firm, CrowdStrike, that we just had a great article from Aaron Mate, who, in Real Clear Politics Investigations, and I spoke about that earlier today in the segment, which is, I mean, everything I've been saying for 2 years, and also in my Federalist articles. CrowdStrike, third-party tech firm, being utilized, the United States government not looking at DNC servers, and Alexander Downer being utilized, his gossip being utilized. You can't say, they cannot say, so John Yoo is explaining that, well, the Inspector General is going to find out if this was all an honest mistake or if they were trying to politicize and undermine and remove a duly elected president. Okay, it's not an honest mistake. These people are not like innocent little, helpless lambs. They are cutthroat. They are malicious. They know exactly what they were doing. Nobody demanded loyalty more than Trump's predecessor, President Obama. Nobody did. You talking the Committee on Foreign Investment, not a peep from even Madam Cyberhack, who was supposed to be so tough on Putin. Where were all these cold warriors? Did nobody think that allowing the sale of 20% of U.S. uranium capacity to Putin was a bad thing? Where were these people under President Obama? Where were these people when President Obama told Medvedev, the 80s, and the hot mic, that was a more consequential hot mic, where I'll have more leeway when I win? Where were these people, and where was President Bush and his Vice President Biden when all of this was taking place? John Yoo gets to that also. Guess when the election interference, alleged interference took place under Democratic Party rule in the executive branch. They did nothing to stop it. And by the way, the Russians didn't interfere in the election. Not one vote was altered. When you make a claim they interfered, you have to prove it. Simply a troll farm purchasing Facebook ads doesn't mean they interfered in the election. And finding out that they cheated Bernie Sanders, I love this. The Democrats are living two lies at once. They are convinced that Clinton won fair and square in the primary, and they're convinced that the DNC was hacked by Russia to inform the country that Bernie Sanders was cheated. Only in the mind of a liberal could those two categorically antithetical, opposite things take place in calm serenity. They're completely happy, believing that Bernie just didn't have it. Well, first of all, Bernie Sanders engaged in just not only cowardice, he fomented the same belief that said Russia interfered in the election and infiltrated the DNC to inform the country that he was cheated. But that's another story. So which one is it? Is it that they had a fair primary and Clinton wasn't cheated? Or no, Clinton didn't cheat Bernie? Or was it that Debbie Wasserman Schultz was forced to resign? And this is why I have an issue with certain pundits on the left who take my writing and take my viewpoint back then and completely disregard the fact that Debbie Wasserman Schultz was forced to resign because the DNC emails and campaign emails showed immense corruption. And yet at the same time say, H.A. Goodman was so horrible during the election. Like, no, I had the pulse of what was going on. Clinton Madam Cyberhack should have been indicted. These people generally don't have the guts, they don't have the courage, and they certainly don't have the integrity to say that, she was a criminal. If President Trump committed crimes, I'd say he committed crimes. He did not. My channel right now would be at 500,000 or 300,000. if I devoted my life to the Russian hacking nonsense. Okay? Nothing ever happened. I was calling it out when I was on the way left, far left. Nothing ever happened. And now we're finding out that what they did, Comey, Strzok, McCabe, Clapper, Brennan, and I write this in my Federalist article, the U.S. Code 371 statute pertains to them. They should be indicted under that statute. And you're going to see when people say, they're never going to get indicted. Don't look. Just because they haven't been indicted yet or haven't been charged with crimes yet doesn't mean they can continually get away with it. You can't. Of course, there's a chance they all get away with it. Fine, but I doubt that President Trump is going to have another Sessions on his hands. I doubt he's going to make the same mistake twice. Then you get the people, well, who hired Durham? Sessions? Oh, God forbid he does one good thing in his life. It's like a guy totals 20 cars and then gets one car wash. And it's like, oh my God, it's fantastic. What a great guy. It's like, no, you totaled 20 cars. You just happen to wash one car. Big deal. But let's listen to this again, because this is actually fantastic. John Yoo says it better than I could have. This is fantastic. And it's from an establishment Republican. And it's talking about a witness, a reluctant witness, a last-second witness. Okay, this is good. One witness outside the Justice Department, FBI, started cooperating, a breakthrough that came after Attorney General William Barr ordered U.S. Attorney John Durham to lead a separate investigation into the origins of the Bureau's 2016 Russia case. Okay, they all need to lawyer up. This is not, you're messing with a guy who's far more obsessive than I am regarding all of this, is President Trump. Imagine the way I'm focused on this times 1,000. That's Trump. Let's listen to this again.
First, I think Michael Horowitz is a professional prosecutor. He has served under administration of both parties. I expect he's taking his time because I think what he sees is what we see, that the Obama administration, the FBI, and the Justice Department misused FISA to try to surveil a major presidential campaign. The very purpose that FISA was passed was to prevent such a thing. The harder question, which is what Mr. Horowitz is probably working on, is whether this was an honest mistake, that people were duped by the Steele dossier and the terrible evidence, I think just fraudulent evidence that was brought to the Justice Department, or whether it's something worse, whether the intent behind the misuse of FISA was partisan, was to try to affect the election. I really hope that that's not the case.
It is the case. We have intent in Peter Strzok's statements, we will stop Trump. Now, Lisa Page said, oh, well, okay, Peter Strzok says, well, I didn't write the text. And then Lisa Page said, well, no, it was about the American people. The we was the American people. No, this is an admission of intent. If the tables were turned, do you think they would allow that? We will stop Trump. We will stop Clinton. Do you think they would buy, the we is the American people? Do you think they'd buy that, the Democratic Party, the left? No, of course not. Mainstream media, it's not sustainable. I said this in 2015, 2016. I used the phrase, it's not sustainable. There's a phrase in it when you study environmentalism, sustainable development. Okay, this is not sustainable. You cannot continue to double down and continue to bolster failed propaganda themes. It doesn't work, okay? Clinton was going to win, then it was Russia's fault, then they couldn't find any evidence Trump colluded with Russia, but then it was obstruction of justice. Then, well, the obstruction of justice didn't work out, then they're going to interview Mueller, and then Mueller's going to double down on a lot of things, then he's going to get grilled by Republicans. That should be hilarious. That should be absolutely hilarious. Hopefully they ask him a million questions about CrowdStrike and the Steele dossier. And then Clinton's going to run again. Yes, she is. When people say she hasn't run yet, it looks like it's not going to happen. No, every day we get closer to it. And you should go on Twitter. There is already a bastion of Hillary 2020 people. And these are not bots. These are like real, these are real people. And they're ready. And they're already giving surveys like, would you jettison your current, person you're rooting for in the Democratic debates and vote for Hillary? Of course I would. Yeah, Hillary. They don't see, like, this is fantastic because all we have to do is wait. Just fly under the radar. That's what I'm saying. If you meet a Trump derangement syndrome person, especially on Twitter, I deleted my Twitter and Facebook because I don't need the nonsense. It's like, they're like, their entire world is like this spider web of bogus, nonsensical, irrational theories that are fomented by Brennan and Clapper and then amplified by the biggest buffoons and imbeciles in the media. And it's like, just imagine this giant spider web of liberal hysteria. Don't get caught up in it. Don't get caught up in it. That's why I say, if you don't want to argue with people, and I'm talking, actually, it's more important for not Trump supporters, it's more important for people on the left who have an alternative viewpoint, actually reality, who see the Democrats for what they are. You're going to be called a Trump supporter and worse. And I mean from the liberal vantage point. Being a Trump supporter is like the worst thing that could ever happen to somebody. It's basically like you're calling them, like, Attila the Hun. I could list some other dictators, but of course the algorithm, big problem. But the left is going to be completely unhinged. And I'm not on social media, so I don't need to deal with that mishigas. But we have this one person that is speaking to John Durham. Person came out of the woodwork. And late-breaking information is known to delay such investigations. Okay. The Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act was violated by people who deceived FISA judges. And that's it. They've deceived FISA judges, and they did so for a reason. To create these sprawling, never-ending, ever-multiplying, or exponentially multiplying investigations. They utilize the government as an extension of the Democratic Party. It's obvious. Okay, William Barr, John Durham, they already know this. You already have Peter Strzok's text message, but you already have James Comey and Clapper and Brennan, who have never utilized a Republican opposition research. Like, when was the last time an opposition research from a Republican Party was used by a candidate to foment investigations on their direct political rival? It never happened. So, of course, there's intent. Of course there's intent. Now you have this last-minute witness, and the only reason the witness came out was because of John Durham, which deals directly with a criminal probe. John Durham is there to indict people. Now, I'm telling you, all of this has to do with political momentum. The political momentum has completely shifted. Democrats are now more on the defensive. President Trump has never been more on the offensive. Democrats will continually be on the defensive throughout the election. Okay, they're not going to win the election. Clinton is going to run again. They're not going to go with Biden or anyone else. They're not going to go with Biden or anyone else. They don't have anyone else. Just ask Willie Brown, who knows the California senator quite well. Gee, I wonder why. A man like Willie Brown has the goods. Not just in that respect, but he knows when he writes an article in the San Francisco Chronicle, the Democratic Party runs on a hierarchy. The longer you've been there, the more established you are, the more, it's like Tammany Hall, the more power and influence you have. And the more that you will help the both Clintons. So when Willie Brown, the San Francisco mayor, writes that article, he's extremely influential within the Democratic Party. Extremely influential. Just ask the California senator. He's one of the most influential people in California. And which means he's one of the top most powerful political figures, Willie Brown, former San Francisco mayor, in the Democratic Party. He wrote an article that I explained several days back regarding to why Hillary Clinton is running again, stating no one at the debates can defeat Trump. Who do you think he's referring to? Now, when people say, why are you bringing it up all the time, every day bringing it up? Because the reason there was a FISA violation, the reason there was Mifsud, the reason there was Natalia Veselnitskaya, the reason there was unmasking of 100-plus names, the reason there was 500 search warrants obtained, the reason there was a 2-year special counsel, $40 million, the reason that James Clapper, Comey, McCabe, Strzok, McCabe's wife received hundreds of thousands of dollars from Terry McAuliffe, the reason that McCabe's under criminal investigation, that James Baker's under criminal investigation, that Peter Strzok said will stop Trump, is all because there's one political paradigm, that's controlled by Madam Cyberhack Clinton. And everything is done at the behest of Clinton. That she doesn't need, this is not conspiratorial in any way. She didn't need to write a letter to Peter Strzok saying, hey, do this for me. That's not the way they wield power. The Democratic Party, the media, and the government are in cahoots. It's pretty obvious. The facts are there. When you have Peter Strzok saying, we will stop Trump, and Peter Strzok interviewing Clinton, and Peter Strzok interviewing Michael Flynn, that's pretty much all you need. And James Comey saying, gosh, she didn't intentionally transfer top secret and special access program intelligence on servers outside of the United States government. So this is going to be a rude awakening for them, and they've continually doubled down on the same failed narratives. It's not going to work. They haven't changed the script. They can't come up with anything new, because at the end of the day, the Democratic Party is Republican light on most things, yet they feel that they're morally superior. They're not. They're actually morally inferior on most issues. Who deported more human beings than any president in U.S. history? Oh, that's right, President Obama. Who presided over the largest expansion of oil and gas production? Oh, that's right, President Obama. So we have to hear about climate change. We have to hear about the nonsense from AOC. And it's so offensive, but I explained in my Jerusalem Post article. Please share that everywhere. That's below in the pinned comment. You know, the younger generation of Democrats, liberals, have like zero concept of history. On most major topics, you see there's always this moral equivalency because they have to make, I can't even talk about it. I'm sorry. I want to play the long game. Fly under the radar, be cool, and just tell the truth, cite public record evidence. And in my writing, then I can go in depth. So read my Jerusalem Post article about AOC and read my article in the Federalist, my numerous ones talking about how Comey and Strzok and McCabe and Brennan will eventually get indicted under the U.S. Code 371 statute. And share my latest one that was talked about for 2 days by Rush Limbaugh on his show. That's in the pinned comment. These people have dumbed down American society. And it's like 30 people on the internet or on Twitter, if they're outraged about something, like major corporations have to kowtow to them. But if it's AOC saying the most revisionist historian, nonsensical, taking photo ops, these pathetic, overtly photo opportunities where you don't even actually see what what the person's weeping about, and then comparing it to one of the most barbaric, I don't even want to get into it. Read the Jerusalem Post article. It's below in the pinned comment. They have no concept of history. In fact, they have a revisionist concept of history, the loudest voices. And that's why when Clinton runs and she wins, of course, she's going to win the nomination, and the Democratic Party, she'll lose again. When that happens, that'll take down Twitter as well and Facebook, because you're gonna have a very unhealthy environment for these people. They're not going to really understand what's going on, because they've been inundated to believe that they're right the whole time, even though they continually are proven wrong. Like, I've had a lot of friends. They're on the left. They don't get it. They're like, well, Russia. It's like, oh my God. Then they're like obstruction of justice. It's like they don't get it. And now you have a witness with the IG report. Now you have a situation where President Trump is fighting back. Now it's the counterpunch. And they've left themselves open to a counterpunch, which is not good. Not good at all for them. In a political sense. Give me your thoughts below. Thank you so much for sharing my segments and for telling people about my channel. And ladies and gentlemen, word of mouth is the most important thing. Check out HA2A. Right now it's my firearms channel, but I'm going to transition that to be a channel that has to do with my new website that's coming out eventually, probably in a little bit about a month and a half from now. It's taking a long time, but it's going to be awesome. It'll help you defeat any progressive or liberal, mainly liberal, or progressive, on any major topic pertaining to President Trump. Most major topics pertaining to President Trump. Most subject matters. So if they have Trump derangement syndrome, it's actually for that. If a person has Trump derangement syndrome, my website will help you defeat them in any major argument. And I'll transition HA2A into that. So check this. You'll see me with an M249. Pretty awesome. It's in Vegas, actually. It's pretty awesome. That's a segment in HA2A. That's below in the pinned comment. Check that out. But subscribe to HA2A. Let's get it to 5,000 subs. It's almost there. You'll enjoy that one. And I'll be transitioning that. I'll be transitioning that channel in a little bit. But anyway, thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for your support. And have a wonderful, wonderful evening. Thank you.